Hello everyone, and in today's video I'm going to be discussing something that is maybe quite alarming to many of the auto chess players, especially those that take this pretty competitively. I have figured out how the random targeting mechanics work in auto chess. And let me first start this off with, it's not random. It's not random apart from it being a coin flip. It's about a 50-50% chance between two particular pieces on your board. And yeah, so I'm going to go into it. I'm going to show you examples, and let's dive right into it. Why don't we? All right, so I'm going to be giving another example of using the predictive targeting to my advantage. I'm going to be using a werewolf 3 as my target, and using that information to make it so that my werewolf will have a great probability to summon tons of little werewolves, and thus increasing his max HP to some ridiculous amount. And the way to do that is pretty straightforward. I'm just going to need another round to be able to do it. But when it happens, I'm going to start doing a truly ridiculous amount of player damage, which is really interesting. Well, let's do some player damage. You know, getting a worm would be cool too.
Is someone afraid of the dark?
There's another worm. So let's take this out, put this in. Input delay is really screwing me here, but now it's going to go on the werewolf. Unfortunately, I didn't get enough mana, but as you can see, it did target the werewolf as predicted. It's just that, unfortunately, my Ogre Magi isn't generating enough mana. Let's do this.
When do I get a movie deal?
Let's make cool things happen with my werewolf.
Feel the corrosion and waste away.
Let's put this on here. So I'm level 9, and I understand it's going to target my werewolf. And I'm going to make sure that my Ogre Magi goes first by Blade Mail. The damage reflected generates mana, so he'll get mana super fast. And ult my werewolf, which will then get tons and tons of health if that doesn't get human silence. So as you can see, it is continuously making wolves, and now it's at 8k HP. How much damage did I do to this guy? 17 living units. He's out. This can be used on any summoner, any unit, actually. Like if I wanted to go on Dark Spirit, I could do it. If I wanted to go on Umbra, I could do it. If I wanted it to go on Defector, I could do it. I could even make it go on to Ogre Magi himself, if I wanted to.
Wanna try Link game?
Why don't we do Razor Claw? So there it is on Werewolf again. And there he goes, making all those little werewolves. He only made a few there. I think it's best to put it on something that has a shorter cooldown so he has many more opportunities to go through that refresh. So 14 living units, 17 there. Look at all those wolves standing around in a kind of ritualistic fashion around the big boy. Let's do it with let's do it with Umbra. Umbra would be fun. So I'm gonna pull something so I don't accidentally kill anyone. All right. Let's see what people are going. As you can see, the priority there is clear as well. Why not? So I'm going to make the priority Umbra. So now, let's see. Let's do this, guys. Put the magical item on Umbra. The werewolf is targeted here. Umbra gets targeted. Hopefully I don't kill anyone just yet. Let's see how I did here. Well, isn't that something? Isn't that something? 53k HP. And I'd say a little bit of damage was dealt here. Yikes. I think that was at least a few damage. So first off, why don't we begin with how I found this idea, or how I came across such an interesting mechanic. And it happened when I was trying to make a meme comp using the ogre. And through those sessions, pretty bad ones in fact, I've realized that the ogre wasn't targeting random pieces on the board. And I thought, well, you know, it must be something with mana, how much mana is remaining on an enemy, on an ally, because I did realize it was not targeting things that don't have mana, like say God of War or Taboo Witcher. And then I took to the custom games, where I found that it wasn't targeting a particular unit. There seemed to be variance, and I couldn't make sense of it. I thought it would be the piece that was first placed on your board, and that seemed to be right a majority of the time. However, I couldn't get it down. It seemed to be maybe 50% accurate. And then I took to the board, and I found that it would either go to one piece or another piece each time. And I started to think, okay, maybe it's because my first piece was moving, and so the Ogre Magi couldn't target that piece. And that wasn't the case. I used a hunter that didn't move, and sometimes it wouldn't target that piece. But the overwhelming majority was that it would pick that piece over the rest of the pieces on the board. And so I then tried to analyze it by saying, which piece was it on the board? So I numbered 1 through 10, and it seemed to always be 1 or 3, 1 or 4, 1 or 5. And I was confused. I didn't know why there was a consistency in one number, but the other numbers seemed to have variance. And so I figured out that if you're calculating the number away it is from edges, I suppose, like say if you're level 6, the edges would be 1 and 6. It was always one of those, with a few very rare cases where it was not. And so that's what led me to the conclusion that targeting is determined by a coin flip as to whether it chooses to go front to back or back to front. And it's completely predictable as far as like two pieces go. So I recorded a little game here, which definitely is going to explain how this works. And I think the results are astounding. So enjoy. Have you ever imagined a situation, or have you ever been in a situation where you have a sniper and it's a 1-star and you are super excited because it's you got really good items on it and everything's going well for you. However, at the very beginning of the round, you do notice that your sniper gets immediately hit by a pulse staff or pingwind, and you're like, why is it always my best unit? I'm sure all of us can definitely remember a situation like this. And it's not bad luck. It's actually targeting your unit for a specific reason. So, for example, this guy here, his Defector got hit. And his Defector is in the 3rd spot here. That's important. So, in the following rounds, I'll discuss more about it, but essentially, I'm going to be using units that are on farther, like really distinguishing their positioning so that
I'm coming out.
there's a clear targeting going on. So the way this works is that the order that you have them on the board, it affects the I guess the logic gates that are involved in the targeting. And essentially, the one in the first position is what I like to call like a captain or a priority target. And that one will tend to receive targeting by random targeting abilities. So it's the most likely to get Pingwind. It's the most likely to get the Ogre buff. It's the most likely to get hit by a Pulse Staff at the beginning of the round. So I'm going to find some more. This is a quick mode, quick match, by the way. Just so I can get through the levels a bit easier. So my archer is in the first position. That means this shining archer, or this Wind Ranger, is actually going to target my shining archer. That was 100% predictable. And I figured this out when I was playing, you know, doing meme comps as Maecrow does. And I found out that my Ogre Magi, or my Ogre Mage, wasn't like buffing random targets. It was targeting my Shining Dragon. And I was like, whoa, if there's something to this, if I can target specific units with Ogre Magi, there's something that I can do to take advantage of this. And I started thinking, maybe I can use it on Umbra to like make it so that Umbra always gets the buff. And then you're able to do that thing where someone takes 24 damage on round 7 because of Umbra. That is designable. You can design it. See? Ogre Magi targeted my captain. So essentially, I'm calling this entire system target predictions. Like the target predicting mechanics. And yeah, that's essentially it. Or so I thought. There's more to it. There's more to it. I'm going to go into that in just a moment.
Look, a dwarf.
I'll take you under my wing.
Okay, so the Ogre Magi, if it targets my Wind Ranger, I mean my Shining Archer, great. That's not going to be the case all the time. But why is that? If I said that I can predict it 100% of the time, why did it not target the Shining Archer? Well, the answer is very clear. He's the last one. He's the farthest. And I figured out that it is if both the first and the last unit that is on the board is a legal target to an ability, they will be targeted. There was a seemingly random chance that I experienced when I was testing, and I was like, wait, the first one doesn't always get targeted. So I was like going into the positions, like which one was it? And sometimes it would be 4, sometimes it would be 5 or 6 or 7. And I didn't realize that it was always the last one when it wasn't the first one. And it was very strange. There was also instances where it was not the first nor the last. It was one in the middle. And that's where my distinction of legal target was found. I found that if a unit is moving, jumping, or anything like that, the targeting will then choose the next from the first or the last, depending on where it was originally targeting. If it was attacking the one in the last position, but that happens to be a soul breaker that's jumping at the moment, it's then going to go to the second from last. And that's essentially it. And now you might wonder, well, what is this good for? You can choose who Ogre Magi ultimates. That's wonderful. You can use it to forcefully make your opponent's abilities target specific pieces on your board. This is important, especially if you're, say, for example, playing mages. And you're thinking, okay, if this Storm Shaman goes off first, I'm dead. Think of like gods here. What if I told you that if you sacrifice 2 of your units, you don't have to worry about Storm Shaman anymore? Those 2 units are going to get Storm Shamaned, but the rest of your units, they're going to be fine. And that's what can happen here. I was messing around and I was, you know, doing things like making a bunch of werewolves or razor claws with ogre magi. But in the practical situations, that's not really reliable, because in the end, you have to get a 3-star ogre to even achieve a 50% likelihood that it would make or refresh the cooldown. But if you can protect yourself from danger, pretty certainly, then, you know, why not, right? So what I did here was I saw that ogre was the last one, but I actually want my Wind Ranger to be the last one. You can see that this Shining Archer was the recipient of a Hellbolt, or Helling Bolt, as well as the Ogre Magi buff. And Wind Ranger was the target of the Pirate Captain Ghost Ship. This is not random.
Don't worry.
Why don't we try it with Defector and the opponents? So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to find another Defector.
Don't worry.
And I'm going to put a Pulse Staff on it. And I'm going to watch which one... Okay, so it's the last one, so it actually received the Ogre buff. Which enemy is it going to Pulse Staff? I'm sorry, turn into a Penguin. It turned this Worm Guard into a Penguin. Probably because it was the last unit on the board. This next one, another Worm Guard. Not random. That's another thing, though. You do remember those times where you have a refresher on something and it seems to target the same target. There have been times where I put refresher on Defector and I noticed it's hitting the same target with both penguins. Doesn't seem to be random. And it isn't. Not random. So when you make any upgrades or any changes to your composition, whether it be starring up a piece or removing a piece, if you add, if you change a unit in any way, except for position on the board, it will then be reset to the farthest position. So if I wanted a specific unit to be in the front, here's what I would do. I would either take everything out that is not that unit, and then leave the one unit that I want on there. And so, for example, I want the Wind Ranger to be first. So I can take out the Ripper, Abyssal Crawler, and what was it? The Ogre Magi. Put them back in. And now Abyssal Crawler is going to be the last one, and Wind Ranger is going to be the first one. Let's check if that's the case. Wind Ranger, Abyssal Crawler. So, Wind Ranger did receive the Ogre buff as predicted. But I want to do something more. I want Defector, the Penguin, a predicted unit. So, I'm going to give Pulse Staff and more mana regeneration to my Defector. And it's going to Penguin either the first or last unit of my opponent. So I'm going to put the Hell Knight there. Actually, I'll put the Abyssal Crawler there. And then I will surround these melee units. Actually, I can take them out. Let's see. Defector, full mana. Penguins. Oh wait, I couldn't tell because... Okay, so it's the test champion. Let's see, AI player 7. First unit is not the test champion, most likely because the Shadow Crawler jumps at the beginning and is not a legal target. So let's see what happens again. This time, I'm going to place units. Okay, so I'll put these in, but the last unit I'm going to put Devastator in. Let's see who Defector penguins. Okay, so it was the Tusk champion. Shadowcrawler. Oh, it's because Shadowcrawler got hit by the penguin staff, and the next target was then the Tusk champion. So it was the first two that got penguined. Interesting. The penguin staff got the Shadowcrawler. It then jumped and became an illegal target. Then the Tusk champion was penguined. So, as far as the predicting Ogre Magi, I can, if input delay lets me. It's hard in quick mode, so that's actually not going to be possible. Yeah, same thing happened here. Tusk champion was penguined. Let's see who gets penguined this time. Probably Tusk champion. Oh, wasn't Tusk champion. Probably because he died.
I'll melt you down and turn you into something useful. You can't scare me.
So yeah, that's essentially a little bit of an example as to how this mechanism works and how it can be used to essentially determine what targeting is being used. And you can do it by simply looking at the lineup area like this. I think the one here is a bit different. Oh no, it's the same. Yeah, right here you can tell who the two priorities are. It's the first and the last. It's a 50-50 coin flip unless there's some sort of I don't know, something that makes a target illegal to be from targeting. Probably something like Claw Wand, I'm sure, would mess things up like that. So I hope you guys really enjoyed this, and if you liked it, feel free to drop me a like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps me out, and I look forward to making more videos like this. So thank you so much for watching.